Welcome to Season 3 of the Builders Podcast. I'm Matt Levenhagen. Here we share the journeys, strategies, and lessons that help entrepreneurs build what's next. Builders helping builders. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another The Builders. Today, we have William Holsten back. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Matt. I'm really glad to be here.
This is part 2. If somebody's interested in, they can find part 1. It'll be around 200, and actually, we should know. Hang on, let me do a quick search. Like we're live on the show, we're going to do a quick search. It should be like 275, somewhere around there should be part 1, because it's not actually going out until next Monday. So, but anyway, when you're hearing this, it was a couple weeks ago.
You got it.
But anyway, so William, if you want to just take like just a minute or two and just, tell us, a little bit about what you do in the world today, the amazing things you're doing in the world today. Just kind of a little bit what your business is, what you do, and then we're going to dig into a topic around, well, it'll be a surprise.
It's surprising. Yeah, sure. My career was in corporate life. I was in marketing, then innovation with a major consumer healthcare company. And when I retired, I became a SCORE mentor, mentoring small businesses. I am currently a business mistake prevention specialist, a title I made up, but it helps me be someone that can help people I'm mentoring and people who are in your audience and listening, where we can talk about mistakes and avoiding them to ensure stronger success, more stability in your business, because you're not going back to fix things, at least those that which are preventable. And on the last episode of The Builders, I described my own mistakes in building a carnival game called Pitch Burst. And when I look back on that, I realized many things. There were assumptions I'd made that were incorrect. There were signals from customers I just didn't hear or misinterpreted. And I began wondering, as I wrote a book about this, is what I talked about last time. After that, I began wondering, is there a pattern to this? Am I alone in this? Or could I find a way to learn from founders and businesses across the country what drives their mistakes? So I did that. Late last year and into early this 2026, I commissioned and then conducted the Preventable Business Mistake Risk Study. We talked to 309 founders, small businesses, and entrepreneurs across the country to ask questions all around something nobody likes to talk about, by the way, making mistakes. We asked a battery of 12 behavioral questions. We gave them situations. We asked you, how do you normally react to this? Never, sometimes, always. And through an analysis of that and some of their verbatim questions about mistakes they've made, mistakes they worry about, the kinds of things that really piss them off, we were able to put together a picture of how this affects everyone. And I found I'm not alone. Your audience might think when you hear some of the learnings, they're not alone. And maybe take away from this conversation one or two very simple things they might remember that will help them next time one of these begins to come up. We also asked in the study, we asked everybody at the beginning, please think about mistake making and tell me in the next 30 days, what do you think your risk of making a business mistake is? Low, medium, or high? I'll come back to that. But we did ask that foundational question. Here's what we learned. I'll look at my list as I'm talking to you. Number one, it affects almost everyone. Nearly 9 out of 10, 86% said they'd made at least one business mistake in the past year. And 1 in 5 said they'd made at least 5 of those. The most was somebody who was in the teens. A thing that showed up over and over again were the conditions around when those were made. 4 came to the top. They were stress, fatigue, distractions like your cell phones, and relying on faulty assumptions. I called those 4 the big 4. And often when these happen, they're not one at a time. You get stressed and you're tired. You get distracted and you're making some assumptions because you were distracted. Based on the answers, those 12 questions we asked, 40% of founders, small businesses today are in the low risk bucket, which means 60% are in the medium or high. The breakout's actually 51% medium, 9% are making mistakes all the time.
Mm.
Surprisingly, though, when we went back to their questions, we said 40% in the low risk. When we asked them, how do you rate yourself before they went into the questions, 75%, 3 out of 4, said that they were low risk. So there's a gap. People are misperceiving how much risk they have.
Right.
So I'll pause there because there's a lot of information to share.
Oh, it's good. Yeah. No, it's a good foundation. So these are small business. Did you have some criteria about what type of businesses or
We
that you
just
were
were looking for
approaching?
businesses. I think it was under 50 employees, but we had a large portion of solopreneurs, a whole bunch of people, 2 or 3 partners, and then some others in the 10 to 12, and a few up to the 50. And we
Gotcha.
found we analyzed these patterns and these factors across the businesses, and there was not any significant difference between the age of the person who answered the survey. There were people up to age 67. There were people as young as 21. I think we started at 18. There was not any substantial difference between the type of business or industry they're in. You're in website building and digital marketing. Others were running a factory. Others were doing service gigs like Ubering and things like that.
Yeah.
The degree of mistakes and the factors leading to them were consistent across all of those.
Oh, that's interesting. That's good. I mean, that means whoever's listening to this can probably assume that they're going to suffer from these same things, these same conditions. If these same conditions are there, that you might be more apt to make mistakes.
Yes.
But that's what I think is really fascinating about this. I think it's not that, like, I don't know if we make a mistake, and we all do. And I've been in business for decades,
Mhm.
made my share of mistakes, small, big ones. But I think you don't immediately be like, why did I do that? I'm such an idiot, or like you have some kind of random excuse, or you blame it on somebody else or the conditions outside of you. But it sounds like what you're kind of circling here is that it's inside. It's like you're under stress. There's something that's happened to you, or those faulty assumptions, which is interesting too.
And
Mm.
you're often not aware of these external things that are going on because you're so focused on the work. But let me take a step back.
Mm.
There's lots of simple mistakes. I drop something, I can clean up the mess and move on. There's nothing significant there. But a watch out is sometimes these small little mistakes happen. And if you didn't clean up the mess, whatever that was, the next day or the next week, there's a larger thing that's based on unfixing that one. And then they can cascade into major things where you've lost a client. It's a major financial thing. So they're
Right.
all important to focus on within reason. You can't go crazy. You can't be scared of them all the time, but just be aware. And a little bit later in this talk, I'll get into some of the best practices we found for people to be able to avoid these. They're all about awareness and actions you take when you're aware that these factors are cascading. I'm tired, and now I'm really under stress because a client just gave me a big order and I'm not ready to do what they're asking. So all of those things contribute.
Yeah. I mean, the cascading effect of something that happens, like you said, it can be small, it can be large too, and just has this terrible cascading effect. I think of things already in my current business where decisions I made a year or two ago, or a mistake I made that I should have done something a little bit different, that financially or whatever, and now it's having this ripple effect to today. Like, oh, I'm struggling in this particular area. I think that's interesting too, because, but yeah, but what led up to that initial mistake? That's the thing.
Yeah, and to be fair to you and to anybody watching or listening, you can't turn back the clock. You can
No.
only keep some of these best practices in mind starting today or tomorrow. so you can begin to recognize them and hopefully have a smoother path going forward, because everybody's been through these things.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. So we've established that we all make mistakes, many of us. So what are some of the key things, or, I mean, do you basically have a framework you're working from here, where you start, like, let's say you're in front of somebody or you're talking to a business and they want to make less mistakes. How do you take them through that? And how do you identify what the problem is?
I've actually shifted from when I wrote my book to apply these lessons, these best practice lessons from the study. In my book, when my book was called How to Avoid Unintentional Blunders That Derail Entrepreneurial Success and Goof-Proof Your Business, in there were 10 tools you can use. These are actually exercises you can use. And on the last episode, I think I talked about you can use checklists. You can do pre-mortems where you're imagining something went wrong and fixing it in advance.
Oh, right.
I think I talked about ology, which is learning from other people's mistakes. All of those are still absolutely valid tools, but you have to know where and when to use them. What I honestly am developing is a overview system. I have to look at it because it's fresh, where I'll work with somebody, or people can work on their own from information from my website, to do 5 things with regard to non-strategic errors. And I have to separate strategic errors because you can try Tropicana change their orange juice box and lost tens of millions of dollars because it was a bad strategic decision. We're not going to get around that, because those are done purposefully with good investment, and they just found out in the end it was wrong. These are the ones.
I hate that, by the way. I just hate when you go to the grocery store, and you're looking for that brand you've been buying for 2 decades or for your entire life, and they completely change the look
and you
of the
can't
container.
even find it because you're in the store. You're on autopilot. You're kind of getting your basics and staples. And if that's not there, you're going to pick the other brand because you just couldn't find your regular one. That cost them, in 4 months before they switch back, tens of millions of dollars.
That's insane. Yeah.
Anyway,
but we're not talking about strategic.
Yeah, we're not talking
about
strategic. Other than that, these are the ones that are most affected by conditions.
Why are we not? Because those are tied to just, how are those different than your normal mistakes?
It's all related to human error and the slips and faubles that just happen and go in, brain farts that people have, that they're deciding something or doing something. And these are all, I wish I caught that earlier type moments. And it's typically in small businesses related to one person's actions or decision. When you get to the corporate level, it's high-level committees and big people, your biggest clients.
The strategy is more like there's been meetings, there's been a lot of time and effort.
Strategy can still be wrong. I'm talking about these, I wish I caught it sooner, because it cascaded on me.
Right.
But to be fair, the stress, the fatigue, and all those things, they're present when even the high-level corporate strategists are working, but I can't answer those.
Yeah.
So what I'm building, and we'll be able to go into some detail on now, is a system that allows you to, with regard to these, I wish I had caught it sooner moments, to see them earlier, to catch them sooner, to contain them better if they're happening, and especially to learn from them so you don't do them again, and you can repeat less. In the area of catch it sooner and contain it better, this is where I focus most, and I do want to share now. We learned from these 309 entrepreneurs and small business owners, the ones that do the best, that had the lowest number of mistakes, and claimed, and they told us why. It's because that they're more aware of conditions like this, and that they take some very simple actions when they're noticing these conditions. I've gone in one step further, and I'll tell you about an acronym I've made up for both of those. The one to be more aware of your conditions is I call it STORM, STORM. And that is, just keep it in your mind, maybe a post-it on your desk, when you noticed that you are stressed, S, tired, T, overloaded, O, rushing, R, or missing signals, that's my M, and if more than one of those are present at the same time, conditions are building where you should be paying attention. The analogy I use is when you're driving a car, I would say on a day like today near me, blue sky, clear vision, no traffic, you're just driving along, everything is normal, your driving operational method is normal. But change that to during a big thunderstorm in the dark at night. You're going to drive very differently. You'll be more defensive. You'll be going slower. You're going to take it more carefully. Before you make a move to change lanes or something, you're going to double check. That's true in business too. Most of the time, all of us are running. There's always some stress. There's always some fatigue, but you're running normally. When those conditions change, that's when you have to begin to look. The STORM condition, that acronym, stress, tired, overloaded, rushed, missing things, missing signals. When you see those happening to you, then you go into working more carefully and judiciously mode because you're doing important things and you don't want to screw up. The acronym there, and this is on my website, I'll tell you at the end, is SAFER, SAFER. And the SAFER stands for slow down at key moments. Not all the time. Slow. When it's a key, important, critical thing, pause and take an extra minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. So you know you're paying attention. A is assumptions check. Check the assumptions. Ask, at least on any one of these things, what needs to be true for this to work? Or why do I believe this is true? Because you'd be surprised how often we're on autopilot. We're not questioning things that seem to be right, but sometimes they can mess you up. Gotcha. The F in SAFER is focus during high-risk work. This can be close your door, turn off your phone, give yourself 30 minutes to really think something through before a critical decision. When it's thundering and lightning and dark and the other cars are coming at you, you don't want to be just on autopilot. E is setting up energy guardrails for fatigue. I know when I was doing my pitch burst game days, I was working a full-time day job and my night gig had me up till 2, 3 in the morning, 7 days a week because I really cared about it. And I was exhausted most of the time, both at the daytime and nighttime. When it comes to critical things, set up energy guardrails. And for me, that was, I'm a morning person, schedule my most important stuff for 8 to 10 a.m. where I'm my sharpest. I know by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm thinking about other stuff. I want to relax, work it out. So it's a matter of time shifting to the extent you can, a way to operate when you're at your best. And then the R in SAFER is raising small issues early. One of the takeaways from the study was that people, when they were highly stressed, tend to put off what decisions feel like small decisions, small issues, a little bothersome thing. I'll get to that later. Sometimes that delay leads to compounding problems. So the takeaway is STORM SAFER. If you're recognizing in your day-to-day, on any given day, these storm conditions are building, the storm clouds on the horizon, the lightning starting, or whatever those signals are for you in your day-to-day, pay attention, and you can declare yourself today or this afternoon or for the next hour, I'm going to do it the SAFER way. That's the pausing. That's the checking at least one assumption. That's focusing for now. Over time, you go from, it's not always, that's the DEFCON 5, or whatever the number is in military terms, you return to normal. And what we saw in our study, it was a snapshot in time of everybody, but we read between the tea leaves and saw this is a pattern where people are going up and down. And the mistakes happen when you do not adjust when conditions would require. Like you're going 65 miles an hour in a 30 zone in a thunderstorm, you're asking for trouble.
Right.
One other best practice that I've put into work since learning it is so often, and we talked about buying orange juice, you're on autopilot. You don't stop in the day-to-day business decisions, in your actions. You know you got to get that done, just do it. Sometimes you're working on stuff that's important or 10% new or something you haven't done before. I look to pause a little more, whether or not the conditions are bad. If this is important, it's a separate tool. Put up your two fingers to remind yourself, take a second look. And I even take that and okay, there, I'm going to tap it on my desk to remind myself, I'm going to do that second look. I started that because it sounded silly about 2 weeks ago. And now I find it's actually really helpful. It's
Interesting.
a mnemonic device or whatever they're called, just to remind yourself.
I love that. Oh, wow. There's a lot to unpack there. And I'm trying to like think about my, being in business myself and the stress involved of that. And I'm thinking like how I've solved different things in time, just kind of like that. It's doing those little things that can make a big difference. And one of the things that, in my business, there's been some stress especially the last couple of years. It's been a while. And I have to always for a while, I was letting things, I was making more mistakes more often. And some of it around financial stuff, which is kind of the important stuff, right? What I ended up doing, and I don't know, you can tell me how this kind of fits into what you're talking about here in the solutions to this. But what I found is slowing down is actually, it ties into this. It helps me slow down is I've built additional kind of frameworks around my daily activities that force me to have a checklist
Mm.
that I go through every morning. And some of that is checking the financials or doing things because for me in my business anyway, it's very easy to just dive in. And the teams, you wake up, the team's got stuff for you. Clients are already emailing you, the Slack's going, and it's very easy to just dive right in.
Charge ahead. Yeah.
Charge ahead. And you need to check that bank balance, or you need to go, or go do that invoicing or do it. But what I've trained myself in, this has been a good number of months now. I have a system now that I call my command center, and every morning I have that integrated with my ClickUp, which is my project management software, where I literally have a task every morning, and I check this and I check that and I check that, and it forces me to slow down, and I force myself to kind of force myself to do these things because it has lowered the areas and it's focused on the areas I was having problems with.
Yeah.
Like make sure you do these things because it'll prevent this other thing. And go ahead.
Absolutely. I was going to read it. I was going to confirm what you do is one of the smartest things you can do, whether it's a software or my little Post-it notes, a daily checklist, just to keep yourself on task and honest and not to just forget the things that are essential.
When you have to prioritize it, you have to really make a decision, make it a new habit. Like this is the first thing you do before you do anything else. Yes, they're out there. They need you. But you need to do this to stay in business.
Absolutely.
Not make mistakes.
And a strong analogy for using checklists, both in operating rooms and in hospitals and pilots before and takeoff and before landing, they've got required master checklists to go through to be sure they don't forget, the flaps aren't down, or we forgot the sponge inside the patient. All of those things, they're as important as in your world, calling that key client on, said, sending out the invoice, because if I don't send the invoice, I don't get paid, and blah, 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 blah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, and the other things here, like, is the energy. Like one of the things I always think about is, and I say this to people all the time, is like, try to listen to my body. Like I can work. It seems like I'm working all the time, but I take regular breaks.
Mhm.
And I have a pretty regular sleep schedule, but some nights you don't sleep well. You got a big problem on your mind. You wake up early thinking about it. You're more tired. Um, what's your advice around that in terms of getting good rest and pacing yourself and all that stuff? What have you seen and having talked to hundreds of people?
Be aware, be self-aware. Ask yourself questions if you've never asked. Do I get enough sleep? Begin asking, and don't make a list of it and do a diary. You could, but just check for 7 days. Did I
Mm,
get it's more to me, do I feel rested in the morning than did I get 7 or 9 hours of sleep? Because I can do the 9 hours, and once in a while that happens, and I don't feel that rested, whatever. But be self-aware of all of these things.
I find it's interesting because it's so easy, and maybe because I'm older too. It's not, I can't burn the midnight oil and do all the
Yeah.
stuff I used to. 20 years ago, I was doing like promotions in the middle of the night, and, and just staying up all night and a few hours of sleep. But I know for me, I always make sure my circadian rhythm, as they call it, like I go to bed at the same time, I get up at the same time, but that's really important to me. But sometimes, like, even if I wake up early, it's really I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking about this problem. Like I could just get up and start working,
I've
but I
done that.
force myself to go back to sleep. I try my hardest to do it. It's not always easy, but because I know that if I wake up and I might be okay for an hour or two, but the rest of my day is shot. Like I'm just not going to be. I'm going to be at like 50% the rest of the day. If I would have just slept that extra hour or two,
Yeah,
I'd be
makes a lot
I'd
of
be
sense.
rocket fuel all day. So
So
that's something I think a lot about.
what you're pointing out is self-awareness. My focus is on self-awareness about conditions which can lead to mistakes, and
Yeah,
fatigue is one of those.
yeah. What's another big thing that people really struggle with that your framework here is speaking to? I mean, you talk about
Um,
assumptions. I'm curious about the assumptions thing.
yeah. Think of think back, and anybody listening can do it too. Think back on the last time you said to yourself, I wish I'd caught that earlier. And something went wrong, and either it compounded something much bigger, or you were able to ignore it and you were lucky. What was driving that? Often you'll find that I assumed, in my case, with the game product I described on the last episode,
Mhm.
we made this dunk tank alternative called Pitch Burst out of wood, and then scaled up using wood, and then only then learned that that's not durable enough. We had all our refunds and make goods, which nearly bankrupt us. It was based on a critical assumption that the fabrication method we used for the prototype was sufficient because it was hard, it was well put together, and that it was fine. But the assumption we made was that the rental store customers and their customers who rent it from them would treat the machine as nicely and carefully as we did. We never gave any thought to the real world use where rental stores throw these things in backup trucks when they're done. And customers, wonderful people, not always given the correct instructions or even reading instructions
Sure.
how to do it. So things went really wrong on us based on a single assumption. Every business has those type of assumption. How you treat your clients. If you're fabricating something, how is it proven in the real world before you go to scale up? That's my main example.
Well, how would you have done it differently? I mean, because this is kind of like in hindsight, yeah, I should have done X, Y, Z, but in the moment, you were probably pretty confident that you had a
Yeah,
good product.
you're right. In the moment, you can only see what you can see, but taking the pause and challenging yourself, what else? I read that we talked about Tropicana earlier. I read a case history on that on LinkedIn today. And in the
Yeah.
comments from the guy who posted it, somebody pointed out that they did research. They spent millions of dollars on research. Is this design better than that design? What they didn't ask was, when it's on a store shelf, will you see it as easily?
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
the commenter pointed out, it was pretty simple to find back then, but it's really expensive when you go through it the other way. So my challenge to myself and my request for viewers of this podcast, take the pause and think through what else. Think of the other right answer always before you move on, because you won't avoid every problem. It's impossible. And some problems you're going to learn from, and that's part of paying your dues as an entrepreneur. But some of them are preventable and avoidable. And in retrospect, most of them are preventable if you only ask the right question earlier.
Oh, that's for some reason that like just had me thinking about like web development. Like, well, why we
That's
have
your day to
QA?
day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we have QA processes in place. Like, there's so many. It's easy to want to rush something out because the client needs it today, but sometimes it's my role to slow things down and make sure they see it first in staging and it's tested, fully tested. And we've done our browser testing or functionality checkout, make sure it doesn't affect anything else. But it's asking with experience, you learn to ask what questions to ask, and what processes are going to help you have less problems on the back end. But the importance is to, and this is especially important when you're managing $1 million, $1 million e-commerce stores and stuff like that you don't push something out that's going to affect sales, break the store for a minute. But even through that, as an example, it's like, I think the same way for almost anything, though, that you have to just do your due diligence and try to, and I don't know what that is. Like, it's like you have to figure out the questions before you know what they are. Like, and I don't know what you do. Maybe you can do that with, maybe AI can help you these days. Like, what questions should I be asking here?
AI is fantastic. Let me give an example, and I'll employ AI in it. 2 tools, they're in my book, that are especially helpful in that case. One is called the pre-mortem, where you and your team, or you and ChatGPT, describe what your project is, and then imagine together it's 3-5 years from now. And you also imagine it was a terrible failure. Everything went wrong. Then your creative exercise is to think up all the reasons why that 5 years from now failure happened. Then you prioritize those. You put them in, I use a grid, what's most likely and what has the highest impact. And you work on those high likelihood, highest impact ones. And today you figure out solutions for that. And then you employ them into your plan forward. ChatGPT or the AI tools are fabulous at this. It's better with you and your buddies or your team all around you, but always ask, because ChatGPT kind of knows everything. And sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's right, but it will make you think about those things. If you say, give me a list of the 10 things that could go wrong, you'll get a list of 10 things to start you down that path.
Well, that's the thing. And that's how, how AI should be used. It's not to replace your thinking. It's to, it's a partner
to help you think better.
In thinking. Yeah. And to come up with things. I mean, I do that all the time. Like when I'm brainstorming about something or trying to figure out a solution, troubleshoot it. It's like, it'll give me like 4 or 5 different things that it could be. And that might spark something else that I'm thought of.
Absolutely,
but right.
Yeah.
But also within teams that can be useful as well.
The other tool that's relevant at this stage to figure out things that could go wrong is I call it test and learn. I don't do digital things as well as you do, so I'll avoid that. But if I'm making a physical product, and instead of going way down the path of developing it and all that expense and investment, if you have others do work for you or your team is doing it, pick an element that is the core part of that. If this part or this sequence or this element of it fails, the whole thing fails. So figure that out. And then I say Frankenstein it. Put something together with duct tape to emulate that one stage, and then go to the mall, go out to the street corner and ask people. I can't give away actual examples. Somebody was thinking of a hairbrush that I was working with recently, and they wanted to get a patent and they wanted to go to production, get a company to make them and make millions and go into Walmart's. Said, hold on. Well, it's all about what's differentiated there. But in addition to what's differentiated, is it resilient? Is it appropriate? Is it appropriate for use? So the advice is mock it up using wood, bristles, duct tape, whatever it is, and go see real people. Don't tell them what it is or what you're trying to do. Just say, would you look at this hairbrush? Now that's a bad example because nobody's going to put it in their hair. But this thing, tell me how would use it. And then they touch it and they feel it. And if it's a digital project, they would go through the screens to get down there. Right. And you're mocking it up without big expense to learn how to improve and perfect that element. Then if you've got the second most important element and the third, then you string them together into the full website, the final hairbrush model, or whatever your product or service is.
Yeah, I mean, in my line of work, I mean, testing, there's minimal viable,
MVP
features or whatever we're doing, and we can roll that out. And testing's in everything. I'm building right now. I'm for one of my biggest client. We're actually building I built a custom funnel system for them, upsell system, and it it's a whole thing. But the idea is I built it in a way where we can test this funnel, but we can make changes to it easily and test other funnels and other types of upsells throughout the site. But it's all testing is the core of the build. That's what it's built into it. And as you were talking too, I thought of one of my favorite episodes over the years, hundreds of episodes we had in the Builders, was a gentleman who had created a product called Cord Brick. And one of the things that always stuck out, that was one of the ones that got me into, I need to have more people with physical products on here that manufacture things, actual physical things, because I'm so used to being in the digital world. I've never manufactured anything in the real world besides whittling when I was a kid, a duck from wood.
In Cub Scouts, I did that too.
Yeah, exactly. But he had created this cord brick, and I remember him, it took him several years to validate the idea and stuff, but he started at a flea market, just put something together and put it in people's hands and just got people literally in their hands and getting feedback, and he would get feedback on materials. And he made lots of mistakes. He made mistakes around the materials, kind of like you're talking about, where he had to go back and get it remanufactured or rethink it. And it was just fascinating to me to hear that whole process. But that's what it reminded me of. It's how do you have to, besides trying to think of every question, you have to also come at it in a way that's not going to, where you're filing bankruptcy and
try to avoid that.
You got to do it and small.
While you're doing these things, be humble and keep an open mind and listen, especially if you're having people tell you, if your bias is, this is the way it's supposed to be, if they disagree, you'll ignore their advice. No, listen very carefully to the feedback you get, because that's real world stuff you will need when your physical product, your website or whatever it is, gets produced and out there.
Yeah. You got to have some kind of feedback loop. And sometimes it's just watching somebody and how they use it. So that's the beautiful thing about digital, is that we have analytics, so we can see exactly what people are doing on a website, where it's failing. But I would imagine with physical products, it's the same way. It's you can give people that product and watch what they're doing with it, if they even understand what they have. I never designed it to do that thing. What are you doing with that? Maybe we should re-engineer it to fix that problem or whatever. But that's really cool. So, okay. So what else do we got the kind of the core of the problem, right? Things that lead to these things are going to be related to stress, fatigue, and missing assumptions, all those type of things. And then the kind of the answer to that is to slow down, create checklists. Is there anything else that where we can land on that is there one or a couple big things that people can do to help avoid these things or
It,
lessen them?
it boils down to first being aware of when conditions are at their worst or building.
Awareness. Yeah.
And then the actions you take are in that acronym. Slow down is the first one, S, but it's also check an assumption or check all the assumptions. Focus when it's really high risk. When it's bad, get rid of your distractions, turn off your phone. Do your work when you're at your best. That's that energy guardrails one. And watch for these small issues you might otherwise put off if they have the potential of building back up. In addition to that, 2 fingers, tap on your desk, take a second look, a second consideration. Those are easy to remember. The ones like the more detailed checklists, the pre-mortem, some other tools, they can be applied once you're doing these easy things. I do have a free online tool that you and your audience can use if you decide to, if you want to know in that risk spectrum of low, medium, high of making a risk. It's 12 simple questions, takes 3 minutes, and you'll get your rating with some advice that includes what we've just been talking about for free, without having to sign up for anything or no newsletters and things like that. And you get an instant result on screen, and then because you have to put an email in, I don't keep it, you get an email with your result. You get different results if you're a low, a medium, or a high, because the intensity of your actions has to differ.
And where do they find that?
You go to my website. My name is William Holsten, so it's easy to find. It's williamholsten.com. And right there on the home screen is a red button saying take the quiz.
Very nice. Oh, nice. Good UX there. Just know exactly what they need to do when they get there. A big red button. Good.
I'm getting better at UX because I'm learning that. I was in my day job. I was a marketer when media was broadcast, TV, radio, and print, magazines or newspapers. Everything has happened since then. I'm just catching up on.
Yeah. Well, you're doing good. I think it's really interesting because I think like this solves, those cascade, like it can be simple mistakes, but it can cascade into larger mistakes or even the simple ones can be a pain, or you can lose a client or something like that. But what I find interesting is the solutions to it are actually, they're not, I mean, collectively, maybe it's profound, but each one is kind of like, yeah, of course you slow down.
Of course
you do.
And we only learned them by listening to 300 people. What do you do when? And we listened to the people who were most successful at it. That's how we deduced the storm and Safer's hat.
But a lot of this stuff is really is easy to apply, but it's, even things like focus, like sometimes we have to do things to ourselves. Like we have to take control of our destinies. Like I have this app that I've been using now for 2 months called Opal. And it literally is it blocks things. It's a blocker. So you can have it block apps. And as many people do, I have this problem of wanting to pick up my phone all the time. Right. And you do it more often than you think. So I'm just working away and, at my desk, like I do every day. And I'm picking that thing up like unconsciously. Like I don't even know why I have this thing in my hand right now. And then boom, boom. And I got this, you got your patterns. I'm going to go to this app, look at Facebook real quick. But I have used this app and I at first it was crazy because I was like, I'd go there and it puts a big splash page up. Like, no, you're not. But it's made all the difference. It's annoying sometimes and you can take little breaks. You can still get past it a little bit, but it kind of steps you have to go through to do it. So there's a barrier, but that's something I'm doing to myself. Like I want to get better and I want to make sure that I'm staying focused on the things that are important. And especially now with my businesses, we're picking up and doing a lot of work and I want to make sure that I'm optimizing my time, but it's things like that. I think that is, that can make a big difference. It's just little things that the app annoys the heck out of me, but I know it's good for me. So
it's like broccoli, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, William, great having you back on. I knew this was going to be a good one because it's something. This is one of those topics that affects everybody. We all make mistakes, and we all have those times where we're stressed, tired, or whatever. If somebody wants to reach out to you, do you hang out on do you hang out on this social media anywhere, LinkedIn or
You can
anything
find
like
me on
that as
LinkedIn.
well?
You can find me on LinkedIn or at williamholsten.com. More information on williamholsten.com.
We got you. All right. With that big red button. Look for that big red button. All right. Until next time.
Take care, Matt. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Builders Podcast. One more quick note about our sponsors. At Unified Web Design, we're passionate about doing better together, partnering with agencies and businesses to deliver exceptional web design, development, and ongoing support. And UnifiedLabs.ai is where we explore smart, practical ways to integrate AI directly into your website and e-commerce flows. From intelligent chatbots to marketing automation to back-end reporting, all with a strong focus on user experience and making your systems work smarter. If you haven't already, subscribe or follow to stay updated on future episodes. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, sharing it with someone who might benefit helps us grow this amazing community. Until next time, keep building smarter, bolder, and with purpose.